Today I'm filming a video on how to replace your spark plugs in this is a 2014 Jeep Wrangler JK 3.6. I've already done this side, so I've already done the passenger side, it's already done. We've already gapped the spark plugs. And today we're going to replace the driver's side spark plugs, which, if y'all don't know, and if you don't have one of these vehicles and you never tried it for yourself, here's how to do it. It's a little more than just a normal car. We have to remove this intake manifold, the intake boot. I've already done that. The air intake right here, which has got your air filter in it, and all of the connectors and everything involved in doing this. And then we can access the spark plugs. First of all, I've already removed all of this, the intake, the plug, the part of the breathers. I've started the process to make this a quicker and better video for y'all to experience. So today, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to everyone you know, because it's going to help get that out there, and I will be having much more videos to come. So first of all, I'm going to disconnect all the wiring. So I'm going to disconnect this wire here to your, it's not mass airflow sensor, it's just a intake manifold pressure sensor. I'm going to pull the wiring out from there, and I like to use, if I can find them. And with a Jeep, the good thing is you can stand up on the front bumper if it's not modified, which helps out a lot. I'm going to pull with some actually plastic pin removers. I'm going to use those to remove this from the intake boot without damaging it. Hopefully without damaging it. And that's out of the way. And then the next thing you have to remove is two bolts over here. We've got bolts all the way around, and I will let you know what size that is as soon as I find out. We need to remove this intake breather tube right here. We must remove any wiring from the actual intake, throttle body itself, and we can take the throttle body with it. So you can do it either way. You can dismount this. I wouldn't suggest dismounting the throttle body itself, because the seals and the O-rings and the gaskets could be needing to be replaced if you do. So first of all, I'm just going to remove this electrical connector here, if I can get it undone. And give me a second. It may take a little longer than I thought.
Lots of things I know you don't. The kid, San Francisco paper, world famous clown, Mr. Mute, concluded his final hilarious performance with 7 curtain calls. And this, Senorito will end his American tour and say farewell in Denver, Colorado. He's famous. Wait a minute, girls. Like, you'll make our fair the biggest success we ever had. Gosh, you don't feel like what I thought.
So those are off. Next thing we need to do is remove two 10mm bolts on the side, or nuts, off of a bracket that holds it right here on driver's side, front, just in front of the coolant reservoir.
He says, you are right, my child. When I am a man, I am a man.
Just break them loose.
When I become a clown,
There's going to be some wiring harnesses in your way, but you should be able to break them loose and get them with your fingers. Once you can get them with your fingers, just keep track of those because you don't want to lose them. And I usually put them, you can mark them and put them somewhere, but after you've done this a few times or you know what you're doing, you can usually keep track of them. And just keep in mind that all 10 millimeters on this vehicle are going to all be the same thread pattern. So I've already removed 2 from back here, so I'm not worried whether or not these get confused with each other because they're all the same thread pattern and they'll work just fine interchangeable. So you remove this bracket, and traditionally this bracket has some bolts down below. I bought this vehicle, it does not have those bolts. So thankfully somebody's removed them for me. Probably not a good thing, but they didn't put them back on. Next, there's some 8 millimeters we need to remove here. And I will get that set up right now and be right back with you.
Before my greatest performance for my new public at the Glory Be Fair.
I'm removing these 8 millimeters.
Here, come back. Bring you a snack.
There are 3 of them up top, from what I can tell. These are the long clamp bolts. They should be extremely long to lock down the center of your intake. I know, this is a lot to do just to replace the spark plugs and do a normal maintenance on your vehicle, which I did have. I have worked on those. The trick to those is, the reason they break so many spark plugs off, the trick to those is to take like a P2 penetrating oil, and you're not going to be driving your car for a few days, or your truck. Take a penetrating oil, take all your coils off, let them soak for a day or 2. Just let it soak in. And then before you go to cranking on it really hard, and don't ever crank on it really hard because they will break, you just give it a little tighten. And after you tighten it, then loosen it a little bit, then tighten it and loosen it a little bit. And if it's still really difficult, get it to loosen a little bit and then spray more penetrating oil in there. It's not going to hurt the inside of your cylinder walls. The only thing it's going to do is improve. It's going to lubricate your head. So oil does not hurt your cylinder walls. Once that oil, carbon is probably the worst thing, damage that could do to the head. Once you develop carbon, although oil does build carbon quicker on its firing stroke, but a little bit of lubricating will not hurt it. So I've done the other side. I'm going to see if anybody's ever done this side, or it appears that nobody's ever changed spark plugs on this Jeep. I bought it a year or 2 ago. I can't remember how long it's been, with plans of doing some other stuff to it. And no one has ever changed the spark plugs on this thing. These are stock Champion plugs. They're really burnt. They don't look well. Not good. Keep up on your maintenance, folks. Here we go. Brand new plug going in the hole.
Yes? 20 years no jump. Well, that's me, son. What can I do for you?
Could I speak to you alone?
Well, this is Mr. Hardy from our San Francisco. We have no secrets.
Jim Hardy?
That's right. How are you?
He still alone?
Robbed one of our stagecoaches, didn't
That $5,000 reward, is that still on them?
he? Absolutely.
Now, if I was to bring Bill,
Now when they say
how long would it take me to clean
how
it?
to tighten your spark plugs down,
You know where he
just don't tighten them down over what normal strength is. You don't want to sit there and torque on a spark plug. You just want it to be hand tight. So that means to where it gets nice pressure, and then it feels like you have to really torque on it, and that's it. Stop.
Your big change.
Anymore, especially with aluminum heads, aluminum cranks, all aluminum parts, you need to be very careful about over torquing spark plugs. Just seat them to where it's hand tight, and that is a general rule, and that works very well. Keep that in mind for later, because it'll save your butt when it comes to spark plugs. Now I usually like to take, because I know this coil was the last one to come off. That's the middle coil right there, and that is the first one to come off. I usually like to take them, and I'm going to do this now, and I usually like to take them and put them back in place ahead of time, so I know I'll keep them intact in the same spot they go in. Now, they don't have to go in the same spot, but this helps me to know if I have a misfire, again, which I didn't have a misfire code, but if you had a misfire code, when you put them back every single hole you replace, then you'll know if it misfires or throws a code, you'll know that, hey, there's something wrong with that coil or that cylinder. So that helps you not get confused, and nobody likes to be confused, because you can, with engines, you can go through, especially modern engines, you can go through a nightmare of so many things that could be wrong. It could be a mass airflow sensor and everything that you could think of: low fuel pressure, low oil pressure, low manifold pressure, crank sensor. Almost everything can make you think that it is a bad cylinder, a blown motor, a bad spark plug, but it could be none of them. It could be just something simple. So you want to keep track of what's going on with your electrical at all times, so that you know if I need to replace one item or another, that's what it is. Trust me, I have years of experience in doing this and determining and basically going through the ringer trying to figure out what's bad on a vehicle, one vehicle or another. But the easiest way to do it is keep track of what parts you put in and where it's misfiring, when it's misfiring. When you switch something, or it's not misfiring, it could be a crank sensor. A crank sensor will throw the whole system off. Even a mass airflow sensor will shut your engine down. Mass airflow sensor in some foreign cars will actually make you think it is a transmission or the computer is bad, but really it's just a $12 part on eBay, easy to replace, simple to do. So those kinds of things, you just need to, don't spend all the money right away on something you think it may be, or that someone else tells it at the mechanic shop tells you it is, because it's not always the case. And a lot of times modern cars, they just need reflashed. And that's pretty simple. It's expensive, but pretty simple. On to the next.
I know they're the county and you people stay out. Make sure that your report, man. Where are you going, Jim? 5,000 must belong to the post park. Now it's in a wrong hand. I'm gonna try to get it.
So in my case, I'm assuming this is cylinder number 4. I haven't looked at it yet, the firing order, to know exactly. I'm thinking this is cylinder number 4. was not tight at all. So I'll be interested to see what that spark plug looks like when I remove it.
The border.
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
I tell you what you wouldn't do. You're not with me. Bill, all right?
You know me better than I do. I'm gonna take care of you.
Okay, moment of truth, everybody. Got it all back together. All the hoses are hooked up. All the electrical connectors. Got my air box back in. Clean air filter. We'll see if it starts. If I know what I'm doing.
I promise you.
How's that?
If the whole bunch of us ran up here, we'd have been slaughtered.
Barely started. It barely started, but it started. Never sit in the garage with the door closed, so I gotta open the door real quick and see if it runs good. And I'll check the oil, do spark plugs, get oil, do air filter. Very difficult job to change spark plugs on this car, or Jeep, not car, Jeep. But we got it done. So if you like the video, like, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think. Would appreciate any comments you have.